So the letter dropping. So you'd get the land registry, send you the who owns the property. Then you write to them, and then hopefully you'll get a response.
Yeah.
And with that, you'll be. So, I mean, all of that sounds like an absolute headache and very long-winded. So you've really got to enjoy doing it to be able to stick with it. But and nowadays, literally a couple of clicks of a button, and with £3, on your credit card, you can download the stuff. What that does bring in my mind, though, is that actually back then there was probably not a lot of competition because now everyone can get access to it. So
it's a really good point, yeah.
Because there was a developers meeting that I was at yesterday, and some people around the table were saying it used to be a lot easier to be a developer, or it's never been as difficult as it is today to be a developer, especially with everything getting stuck in planning. Based on the fact that you're an active developer then and now, what's your opinion? Do you think it's actually got easier, or do you think it's actually harder?
Planning is worse than it's ever been, yeah? And that's just how it is. Without a doubt, planning is worse than it's ever been. All of the other stuff, I say it's worse than it's ever been. The system is worse than it's ever been, yeah? But it's like anything. If you've got good at sussing it out, then I guess, it gets easier. Depends on your experience, really. So just to sort of jump back a bit, that in the olden days, that was like getting a foot in the door on a site. That's how you sort of have to do it. But even then, once you've got a foot in the door on the site, and this is the other sort of key. It's like, well, okay, how do I turn it into a deal?
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and basically what that means is maximising the land value. Yeah, so coming up with the scheme and the design that's going to maximise revenue and minimise cost, and actually get planning permission. Yeah. Now, if you just go for easy planning, right, you'd never get a deal to stack and you'd never buy anything. Yeah. Conversely, if you go for too crazy stupid planning, or you don't know what you're doing, you're never going to get planning permission. Yeah. So knowing how to add maximum value to a bit of land is the number one skill of a developer. Yeah. So you've got to find the off-market sites to start with, so that you don't get involved in stupid competition, because when you do, basically what happens, you end up bidding your profit margin away before you've even started, yeah? But the real key is adding maximum planning value to land, and most so-called developers are really not very good at that, which is why they get refused all the time.
And the skill set really is a cross between understanding planning case law and planning policy and architecture and design.
It's a ton of things. So that's why, again, now looking back in hindsight, me being so detailed, I now realise how that's worked out so well for me, yeah? Because, back to the planning bit, right? You'd have to go to the planning office to search the planning history of a site, go into some dusty room, dig through a whole load of boxes, find some microfiche, yeah, go through them and find that everything was massively slow and painful. But I know that nearly all the competition weren't doing that. Yeah, they weren't as detailed as me. So that was my angle. Like I say, I studied everything. I got really good on law. I know covenants inside out. So, remember I was a site engineer, so I was really good on construction. So basically, I just got really, really good on all of the numerous complex things that you have to know about in order to get a deal done and maximise the land value.
Yeah, because there's somebody that told me as well that, actually you can design a scheme that will get through planning and it's really great, but when it actually comes to delivering it, you've built something that's like the costs are just crazy, so it doesn't stack.
Totally, and I literally see it all the time. And this is one of the problems actually when you get like wheeler dealer traders that have never built anything, because I flip a lot of stuff. I build less nowadays, yeah. But whether I'm flipping it or building it, I'm designing it to be optimally efficient to build, because that's the way you maximise the land value anyway, yeah? Whether I'm building it or whether I'm going to flip it, yeah? Conversely, you design it all wrong, everything. They get the wrong unit sizes, they get the wrong mix, they get the wrong layouts. They literally get everything wrong. A lot of people, seriously. And then they approach the whole planning application the wrong way as well. and then they wonder why they get refused. Most people, most applications I see are literally asking to be refused.
And then there's the PD thing that comes into play, which it could be part of the reason why you said it's never been harder to. The planning. What was I forgot the phrase you said, but literally planning yesterday was discussed. It's impossible. The delays are just so infuriating and frustrating. But then they've brought out all this PD stuff. And you and I have discussed it in the past as well. Some of those PD schemes are not necessarily the most attractive. The guy that was speaking here earlier today said pretty much the same thing. And they're the slums of tomorrow, basically.
Totally.
Especially with some of the room sizes that you were getting before the minimum standards were coming out. Do you think, we've got an affordable housing crisis. The planning system is a mess. I think there was one point that finding funding was the issue, but that's to a certain extent been resolved. There's a lot of funding out there from private debt, Homes England, etc. So it seems to be we're stuck on this planning thing, and we're supposed to be building 300,000 new homes a year since 20 years ago, and we're nowhere near, and apparently it's now at 500,000. So, and the government wants to build, or at least, the Labour government of tomorrow, if they get in, want to build 1 million homes. In your opinion, why are we in this mess, and how do we get ourselves out of it?
So, the reason the biggest problem at the moment is the resourcing of the planning system. Yeah, there are just not enough planners, full stop, and that's it really. There's not enough planners, full stop, and there's certainly not enough good ones. Yeah, because they don't get paid enough. For one thing, and it's a bit of a thankless task, really, and it's interesting. And there was a time earlier on in my career, I didn't love planners, right? That's just not because they would make my life hard. Yeah, and remember, and I've never really been a sort of like arsehole developer that's just trying to do shit and cram too much on and doesn't care about things. Right? I've never been like that, right? But nevertheless, stuff would get refused. Planners would backtrack on what they've told you. It's difficult, right? That's just how it is, right? So for a long time, I didn't really love planners. Yeah. I guess as I probably started to understand things more in my later years and mellowed a bit as well, I've started to see things from their point of view as well, and they got a really difficult job actually, because even if you were, let's just say, you were a really good conscientious town planner and you got involved in planning because you wanted to help create better environments and you wanted to help more housing get created and stuff like that, and you were sort of like, let's say, pro-development, obviously the right type of development, not any old crap, right? So even if you were a good pro-development planner, right, you would end up working for a local authority. You could work closely with a developer for months, sometimes years, tweaking the scheme, negotiating the scheme, coming up with something between you all, working together collaboratively, which is how it should be, right? You come up with something that ticks all the policy boxes, you're all happy with, yeah? You then recommend it for approval, it goes to a planning committee, and a whole load of untrained people, right, that don't get it, don't understand it, and are just massively influenced very often only by local politics and wanting to get voted in next time around, literally boot it out on a whim after all your hard work. So you imagine that. So even as a planner, how frustrating must that be? The fact that the people you're arguably serving, i.e. the local community and the councillors, even they don't value what you're doing. So it's almost like, Jesus Christ, it's like why bother? And then you get someone from the private sector, some private planning consultancy comes along and offers you 3 times as much. Like, not surprisingly, a lot of the best people are going to end up going there, yeah? So to actually stick with local authority planning after all of the grief they have to have, and not only that, right? And then, of course, you've got developers frustrated that are on their case as well, right? Sort of understandably to some extent, when you've got hundreds, sometimes of thousands of pounds on the line, you know, it's a bit of a thankless task, really. So believe it or not, I actually feel really sorry for local authority planners.
I mean, they were talking about in the autumn budget as well, like more fast-tracking services so that we can actually pay them a little bit more, so that there's more money in the coffers to be able to increase. But then I've heard there are some council that have been trialing it, but they're at full capacity already anyway, so they're not taking any more of those applications because everybody wants to fast-track it. So, I mean, and then you've got, I think it's 13 different housing ministers in the last 13 years. There just seems to be no cohesive plan to be able to solve this. And now we've got things like Class MA, which are like ruining street. I mean, it just seems like a big mess, and there seems to be no solution to it.
It's a massive mess, and it amazes me really, and particularly like the last few years, it makes me think it's like, wow, some of the stuff that's been done, it's almost like, are they like trying to fuck it up on purpose? Seriously, like some of the ridiculous stuff that gets done. I'll tell you, right, about 2 years ago, I was invited to be on some consultation call with the housing minister at the time and a few other sort of like, you know, key people in the industry, some people from the HBF and stuff like that and all the rest of it, right? And it was meant to be, they're sort of like gauging our opinion and stuff like that, yeah? So when it's with the chief planner was on there as well. So all like high profile stuff, yeah. So I'm on this call. There's probably about 7 or 8 of us in total, yeah. And they're sort of asking us stuff, and we're telling them what we thought, and clearly they'd already made their mind up. They weren't listening to what we said. It was clearly like a lip service thing. Oh right, we've got to be seen to be consulting, right? And then their chief advisor at the time, I can't remember the guy's name, but before the meeting, I'd sort of gone away and checked him out on LinkedIn to see who is this bloke, and he was saying about 25, out of Cambridge University, spent like 4 years working for some think tank, like guaranteed never been near a building site in his life, and he was the guy that like he'd written this policy and it's like really like what the fuck? You've got people that have been doing it forever, literally at the coalface. Like I've just told you, I probably had 10,000 meetings with landowners. Right, probably, I don't know, probably, and I've been doing it for 39 years now. Not just me, lots of other experienced people as well. We know what the problems are, we know what needs to happen, but they won't. That people won't listen. I mean, just listen to the fucking people that are doing it and trying to make it work, yeah, because it is a complex business. It isn't easy, but look, fucking leave it alone for long enough, and we'll work it out. Yeah, all of this our policy needs to change, or it needs a complete rethink, the planning system. It's like, no, just fucking leave it alone for long enough, yeah, and properly resource it, and we'll get it to work. And that is the problem for literally for my whole career. All that's been happening is various governments have been moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic. That's all it's been, and it's because it's so political. Hopefully now it's got to the point now that the housing crisis is so massive that it's starting to become a vote loser. And it looks like Labour, if they get in, seem to be making the right noises, but we'll see.